Hello, everybody. Welcome to Microsoft Pivot Tables here in East Brunswick Public Library. Thank you for being here. And I trust that all of you have the handout available. You don't need this handout right now, but you might need it later on after this. And if you want to follow along, you will need the Excel file. So the Excel file have been provided to you either on the via email or on the chat, or you will be able to get it from the online handout. So once you have the file, which is called Excel pivot table, I'm gonna enable editing. And then I'm gonna make sure I save it. This is a large file, so I have to make sure I save it to my computer. So in case it crashes, I can recover it. And that's something to have in mind anytime you work with large data in Excel, to be able to save it often. So you can, if it's something happened that it crashes, you can recover. With large files, usually you want to make sure you're saving. This Excel sheet has two tabs, annual sales and then NBA players data. We're gonna start with annual sales. So Microsoft Excel pivot tables are tables that we are going to extract information analysis from the data. So we use that. This is, for example, Excel. It has tables, like you can see that, but pivot tables is going to extract information analysis from those tables, and it's going to rearrange so we can read that information and also be able to explain. So if you have a question on this data, the pivot table should be able to give you the answer to that question. So let's start, before we start with the question and what kind of questions we can ask the data, what kind of analysis, let's start with the mechanics, how a pivot table is made. So we have a table. Right now is just the months of the years and have data of different cells of personnel. And we have the total, the last row 9 has the total. So the first row has the month, and then we have different employees. And for each month, we have how much they sold. So we have, this is a simple table. And I say simple because I can see it, the complete table, I can see it in one screen or less. So I'm going to select this table. And you let me know if everybody it's following or they need more time. So I can slow down or speed up. So I just need a check to see if everybody is good. You can put a thumb up if you want me to proceed, and otherwise let me know if you need a couple minutes. Once I have the data selected, and I'm going to not select the row 9 because the pivot table is going to give me the totals. So it's kind of redundant to add this row to the pivot table, because the pivot table is going to give me a total. So I'm going to not include the row 9 on my pivot table. I'm going to go insert. So on the tab insert, I'm going to click I have the ribbon insert, and I can go straight to the pivot table. But let's try, since this is our first time doing this, let's try to go through this wizard and just try recommended pivot tables. When you click recommended pivot tables, you will get different options that Excel can give you. And then you can choose one, and that's going to be your starting point. So it's always good to start with something and not to start with 0. So I'm going to choose the first one, and then we can modify it. And then, so I choose the first option, and then I'm going to click OK. Once I click OK, it's going to take me to another tab. It's going to create a brand new tab. And you can see this is our original table, and then sheet 1 is the pivot table. You see that it puts here a name, row labels, and it adds, there is a data here, and there is the January. So as you can see from the previous one, we can figure out what's going on here. So 250 will be December, and then January will be, so this is one is adding January. So you can see on the right, there is a panel that opens up. So January is under values, and June is on the row. And we're going to talk about what this is. If you click out of the pivot table, the panel disappears. For the panel to show up, we're going to click inside the pivot table. The other thing I want you to pay attention is the tabs. Look at the tabs here. It says pivot table tools at the top of your screen, and they say analyze and design. These are only for pivot tables. If I click out, those tabs are going to disappear. If I click inside the pivot table, those tabs show up. So one is analyze and one is design. On this, today we're going to talk only about analyze. Design is all the cosmetics of the table. So we're not going to talk about that today. We're just going to talk about the analyze. But remember, if you are out of the pivot table, you will not see those tabs. So you need to click inside the pivot table to find those tabs. Same thing with the panels. These panels are going to disappear if you are out of the pivot table. If you click inside the pivot table, you'll see them. So let's talk about what these panels are. So these panels is how you rearrange your pivot table. And they are rearranged either by column and rows. So just let me share the information with everybody here. Okay. Just 1 second. So if anybody joins now, just let me get the information out there. Okay. So sorry, I'm rearranging my screen. So so these panels right now are showing here on the rows. Rows is this part here. It's showing the June values. And then January is showing on their values. So let's rearrange this in a way that it makes more sense. So the way you rearrange it is you can drag this out, or you can uncheck it. And then you have this stamp here that tells you there is a future pivot table. So let's start salesperson. And when you click salesperson, it shows up here, sales total person. So let's not do that because I don't like that. Let's do January for now. So these are the total for January, and I can put it here under values too. You can do February, and I can put February here, and so on. But there is something is missing here that is making our table difficult to read. Anybody knows what's going on? What column should we have here on the left that will make this table read better. So we have here the previous table, we have salespeople, and then we have the data. But here it seems like we don't have salespeople. So what column you think it should be added here? Any guesses? You can write it on the chat. Okay, we have an answer. Employee. Yeah, so the employee is missing here. And it's missing because this field is empty. So let's remedy that. So I just go employee under the label above the employees. Before it was empty. So let's see if we got that fixed. So we're gonna go here, analyze. Remember, we're inside the pivot table, and let's refresh data and see if it shows up. So it's still not showing up. So let's check if the data that we chose is correct. So we go here to the data source. And we change the data source. It shows that it's not pulling this data. So we need to do a correction. So this is a check that I'm showing you, so you can do whenever you feel like there is something wrong with your data. And also to verify that you are including the right data. So I'm selecting now the correct range. Before I didn't have the correct range. So I click OK. And now we have employees. So now I can have the employees right here. Let's take this out. So we have employees on the rows. Any questions so far? So you can check, you go here, check that you have the right source, and then it's gonna, whatever is highlighted here with these scrolling ends, is gonna be the right source. So that's a way to verify that you collected the right data. And then the employees is showing here as one of the labels. Now I can put January under values. And I have now the employees. And this row label is just a default. It's a default. Yeah, I can repeat again. This is a default. You can change it later. I can show you how to change it. So let's start from the beginning. I'm gonna just take this out. And I'm gonna take this out. So remember, here is empty. And then I'm gonna select the data. I'm gonna go insert. I'm gonna recommend the tables, and I'm gonna choose the first one. And then it's showing me the pivot table. So if you click out, you're not gonna see the table or the tabs. If you click inside, you're gonna see the table tabs and table tabs and the panels. The panels can be unchecked, and then you just have a stamp for future table. Right now we can put January, and it's gonna show only the date for January. We can put it on the rows or under values. If you wanna make sure we have the employee data, the employee data is not showing here, so we need to fix that. The way to fix it is to make sure that data source is correct. So we click data source, and we've noticed here that this is not what we chose. The computer chose something else. So, and that would be because we use the recommended version. We just use the wizard to build the best data. And that's okay, you can always fix it. So I'm gonna reselect it. And it's telling me, oh, one of the tables is empty. So I need to fix that. So I'm gonna put here, I'm gonna cancel this, and I'm gonna go here and fill it out because this cell is empty. And then I can redo it again. and redo this, reselect it, and then you click OK. And now we have employees, and the employees can go under rows and January under values. Okay, so I just show you a different ways to do a way to insert a pivot table and also to troubleshoot it and verify that you have the right source data. Once you have your pivot table and you want to know how to build it, what you want to build. So the question here would be, the question to ask here would be, what is the data for January? So we have all the employees here on the left, and then we have sum of January. So we're not getting we're not getting the data for January, but it's the same. You see 500, 400, 500, 400, and so on, because it's just compiling this data. It goes into sum because that's the default. It's just going to add whatever is January per employee, it's just going to add. So it will be different entries for January. It will add all the different entries. That's not the case because we have only one entry. So these numbers will match to the sum. We can change this. We can go to the sum of January, right click, and then there is a menu. This menu is very important. There you can customize how to choose their values. Summarize value by, count. So the one selected is sum. You can do count, average, max, minimum, product. And we're going to see that again later. We can click this arrow here, and we can sort the names from A to Z. So now we have a Jill, we have Z to A, Susan. We can also choose which one you want to select. If you maybe just want Susan, you can just select that. Or if you don't want anything, you just clear. Okay, so those are really easy things that you can do. If you want more months, you can just drag it under the value. You can do February, March, and you can see it on my screen because or you can just click it instead of drag it. So you can drag and you can see here the grand total is defaulting there. So that's why I didn't add this column, because this row here, the total monthly sale, because pivot table is going to give me that anyway. And you can click adding and have the same table than before. Or you can change it and have unchange this, unclick this, and only have maybe the first trimester. So you just have that. Or you can do, if you have, you can also, well, in this case, there is not much you can do because that's, there is no much you can do here with the data because it's very straightforward. But that's how you can build that. You can build only the last 3 months, or you can choose random names here, random data. You can also go to choose other pivot tables, like you can go here to recommend the pivot tables, like the wizard, and it gives you other ways to organize the data. So for example, I can go count the employees. So this will be count the employees. So you can play around with the recommended table and see what else you can find out. So that's how you build a simple table that you can see like this one. So this is a good way to start. So let's start now with a more complex table. So any questions so far? All good? You just can give me a thumbs up and I can proceed. So we're gonna move now to the NBA player pivot table. And you can see this is a large pivot table. And you cannot see all the data. It's about 2,000 points, so we're not gonna be able to see all the data. But when we do the insert table, we don't have to select everything. I mean, Excel will select it for us. So are you guys ready? Yes? No? Okay. So thank you. So here we can ask questions, more interesting questions. So we have the player. This is the playoff for NBA 2016, 2017. We have all kind of data here. We have ID players, last name, first name, jersey number, position, points, heights, what kind of heights in feet, heights in meter, team rank, date of birth. So there is a lot of data here. So how do you extract information out of this data? And what kind of questions? There are thousands of questions you can ask about it. You can find, if you want to find who is the most talented player, who has the most points, who was born in certain part of the country, what kind of positions. You can really get a lot of information from this data, and you don't have to spend a lot of time looking at the raw data. You can just get a pivot table and answer quickly the questions if you follow the steps. So let's go insert. And I just click anywhere. I'm not gonna select anything because Excel is gonna detect the data and it's gonna transform it into a pivot table. And I'm just gonna click here, recommended pivot tables. And I'm just gonna click the first one just to have a place to start. And it's gonna take me to another sheet, and you can see like before, and it's gonna have a panel, and we're gonna have our tools, our tabs. So if you click out, they disappear. If you click in, they appear. And right now we only have position and heights in inches. So on the rows, we have position, which is the first column, and then the values is the sum of height and inches. And that's a default. The pivot table is gonna give us most of the time, especially when we do that, because that's what I chose as a recommended table. You can change it to something else. So let's count. So I'm gonna go here to sum of heights, and I'm gonna change it to count. So that's gonna tell me how many players play for each position. I believe this is center, forward, guard, point forward, point guard, and so on. So that tells you exactly how many players they have each position. So all I did was right click here, change it from sum to count, and it's gonna give me the number. And then also right here is counting the inches. So for example, I wanna find the first thing I wanna find is find the tallest player in this data. So how do we do this? So I have placed all the instructions on the handout to do this. So after this class, you can follow all the steps if you get confused with what I'm doing or you don't remember. And so the first thing is we're gonna change it to, so we have sum of heights in inches. So we start there. Then we're gonna sort, we're gonna put the names. So instead of position, let's uncheck position. And then I'm gonna put last name on the rows. So I'll have on the left, I have all the names of the players, last name of the player, and I have the inches, the sum of inches. And remember on the data, we have taking this data here. And something interesting is gonna happen with the name. So I just want you to pay attention. And then I'm gonna choose the 10 tallest players. So I'm gonna apply a filter that is gonna only take the 10 tallest numbers from this column. So I'm gonna click on this arrow, and then I'm gonna click on value filters. On value filters, I'm gonna click top 10. Under 10, it's gonna get under that menu. I'm gonna get this screen, and you can have different options. You can change it to bottom, you can reduce it to 5, and then you can choose here. This is the most important part. You want to choose here what you're going to sort for. So you don't want to sort by names. You want to sort by sum of heights and inches. Make sure that's the correct one. So we're using the first column drop down to access to filter the second column. So top 10 sum of heights inches, and I click OK. So now we have reduced our data for a large table to a medium-sized table. So we have a couple of data points. So these are, it shows the 10 highest inches. So it's adding, basically it's adding this by name, by last name, and it shows the top 10. So what do we do next? So one of the things that you might notice is Anderson, somebody who called her, his name is Anderson, last name Anderson. His height is 397 inches. Well, that makes sense that somebody is 397 inches. No, it doesn't make sense. So something else is going on here. So anybody knows what's going on here. And I can put here, so you can see it. I can put the inches. I already gave you the answer, but let me just change this so you can. So these are the sum and feet. Feet makes you, it makes more sense. And these are the inches. So it's telling me that Anderson height is 33 feet. Exactly, yeah, thank you, Jeff. So we have, that's what it's doing. It's many people, some people here have the same last name. So it's filtering, it's putting together everybody with the same last name, and it's adding all their height. So that's not correct. So we need to add another identifier. So a unique identifier would be maybe the jersey number or the player ID, or we just do it easy. We just put the first name. So when we put the first name, now we can see, oh, there are about 3 people with Anderson. I mean, 5 people with Anderson. And now you can see the specific height for each person, for each player. So you can do that. And then we can also do something else. So right now we have, the problem is it's hard to see which one is the tallest because they're not sorted like that. So let's take that name out for a little bit and then we're gonna bring it back. So let's just put the last name, and then we're gonna filter by height. So the height, so there is a label here called height, hashtag height. I'm gonna put it in the first one, the filter. So look what the filter does. So when I put here the heights, I'm gonna click the drop down, and then that's gonna give me the heights like we read it, like we say it. 5 feet, 10 inches, 5 feet, 4 inches, 6 feet, and so on. So let's go all the way to the top. And we're gonna do 7 inches, and these are the tallest players. So this is the other data that is here. So we can discriminate by this data. Instead of using all those inches, we can just select multiple uncheck all, go all the way down here and check 7 inches 3 feet. I mean 7 feet 3 inches. And then it gives us those 3 names. We can add the last name under rows, and then you see there is only one person. So these are the 7 feet 3 inches, and we have the name here, the first name with last name, the first name with last name, first name with the last name. Sorry, I messed up. So if you messed up like I just did, you can just go back and put the height in inches under values. And then change this to sum. And then you're like that. So these are the players that measure at 7 inches 3 feet. So those are the tallest players on this data, these 3 players. If you want to find out the top 3 players, you can just go back to the filter and choose the top 3 heights. And now you get the top 3 players. And we can also organize this. You can also sort this by height and by highest to low. You're gonna go inside right below here. Don't go to the header, go anywhere where the data is, right click, and you're gonna do sort largest to small. So now you have the largest all the way to the small. And let's uncheck one so you can see the whole table. So now we have the tallest players. So there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, the 5 tallest players in the NBA for that season. So any questions so far? So that's how you can answer a question. So what is the tallest player in the season? So you can take this, copy, paste it, put it in an email, put it on a PowerPoint presentation, or use the design tab to design it. And then when you copy paste it and you put it somewhere where you need it, you can now do another table here. So another interesting way to look at this data is how many are of these tallest players are in those teams. So let's change this for let's add the team names. So we have here team name, and we can put it on the rows. So now we have not only the names and the first and last name, but also what teams they are. So we can see here the teams where they are just by checking here and making sure it's on the rows. So all this you can see here on the panels, all the first column is on the rows, and the values that we register, that we're measuring, anything that measure is going to do under values. Okay, we can also change this to count. And it tells you, oh, okay, so each team has one player that is the tallest player, that is above 7 feet. So that's, you can count. And let's do sum. Now let's see how the height of the players and the team ranking are related. So should we say the team with the highest players, with the tallest players, have more chance to perform better than a team with that doesn't have tallest players. So let's see if height and performance have any link. So let's change this. Let's take the last name out for now. So I can just drag this or uncheck it and check the first name. And these are, and let's clear up all the filters. So I'm gonna clear up, so I'm gonna clear up all the filters here. So select everything. And then I'm gonna do team rank. So one of the data that we have is the how well the team did. So we're gonna put it on the rows. So now we have all the teams by ranking, all the 30 teams. But we still have the sum of height. So let's change that to average, because that's gonna give us a better description how high the team is. So the higher the average, the higher the tallest team. And then, so now we have the average. We can also change this, like in Excel, we can put, select this table and change it from general to number. So everything looks cleaner, everything looks better, you don't have like all these different decimals. So now we have it here, but how do we know if heights has to do anything with performance? So remember, we have a filter. So what should we choose in the filter? What do you think we should check on the filter? Anybody knows what should we choose in the filter to see if height and performance has anything to do? So if we want to link what is the height, is the height, if we say, we can say maybe the team with the tallest players should be the one who wins. Do you agree with that? Nobody wants, yeah, so somebody agrees. So is that the case, we should remember this is the filter for the height. So we should choose the tallest height possible and see if that is in one of the teams that win. So let's choose 7 inches, 7 feet, 3 inches. Okay, so what's happening now? I chose show me only the data of that anybody who has a player that is 7 feet, 3 inches. So this is showing me only the teams that have a player or 2 players, but at least 1 player is 7 inches and 3 feet. Because I just filter and I just told the table, just show the players that are 7 feet, 3 inches. And none of those are on the one of the winners, the top 3. So let's go and choose another one, 7 inches to 7 feet 2 inches. Oh, we got a 3rd place. So the 3rd place has somebody who is 7 inches, 7 feet 2 inches. And then let's choose 7 feet 1 inch. And still none of the first players, the first one, are showing that. Okay. So we have the Warriors, the Rockets, and the Nuggets are the top 3. And none of these have players that are over 7 feet. So let's see. See, they don't have 7 feet players. Let's choose maybe 6 feet. So now you can see, now they have the first 3, the winners, don't have any player that is over 7 feet, and they still won. So there is something else beside height that's going on, and that's points made. And you can make another chart with points made and analyze that. So just to summarize, you can do different filtering by adding a filter right here on this box. You can discriminate and slice the data and choose only certain points to show, like I just did on 6 feet 9 inches. So only is showing the teams that have players at 6 feet 9 inches.